Imagine your typical day. Each one of you are probably thinking of something a little different, but I think there's one thing that we all have in common about our days, which is mediums. Not highs or lows, but where you're feeling somewhere in between, and when you're stressed, bored, or tired. For me, and most people my age, this medium time happens at school, in class. In an ideal world, class is engaging, exciting, and a place where everyone wants to be. But unfortunately, according to a Yale survey of reality, 75% of US high school students self-reported negative emotions about school, including stress, boredom, and tiredness, the main three from the mediums. This isn't uncommon knowledge, but it does make me wonder because I think that people generally like to learn. Babies get so excited when they learn to speak. And when they get a little older as toddlers and preschoolers ask why questions all the time. And as people get even older, they choose to watch the news, listen to podcasts, meet new people, and pick up hobbies, which are all examples of fun learning. But school, which is made for learning, has a negative connotation, which you'll know if you've ever seen students get out for class and beeline for the door. Why is that? And how can we change our average experience in class and other media moments to make them worthwhile? Well, to tackle this problem, the first thing to do was investigate what makes school not fun right now. And the first thing that came to mind for me was grades. Not just grades on their own, but how students view grades. Because while grades are supposed to be monitors or checkpoints of our learning, like after effects of it, if you've ever been to school during finals week or felt that sense of impending doom the day before a big test, you'll know that the opposite usually happens. We students mostly end up learning for grades instead of getting grades for learning. And this translates to other things too, like learning for graduation, for getting a job, for money, for getting into a college. Learning is fun when it's done for learning, but this usually doesn't happen, and as a result, learning becomes a stressful chore in schools. Okay, so the second problem that came to mind takes its place in a very age-old question, which is, how is this going to help me in the real world? I think part of where this question comes from is that students don't have complete control over what they get to learn at school. School is a good thing, and learning is a good thing, and students know that. But since we have to do it either way, it loses some of its value and it doesn't become as fun. Okay, so the investigation had come down to grades and choice as the main problems. And these have something in common. They both have to do with students losing power over their own learning. Students lose power to grades, expectation, and pressure with the first problem, and in the second problem, they lose their power of choice. But the good thing is, as our own selves, we do have power over the way we respond to situations. And this means that we have some amount of power over our learning and our love for learning that we can harness. An experience that really helped me understand this firsthand was a state conference for a school club called YAG, or Youth in Government. This was my first time at this conference, so I was very nervous about finding my place in this new community with new people and new experiences. However, I did go in with one goal in mind, which was that whatever happened, I was going to make the most out of my experience at YAG. This was a really simple goal, but having it in the back of my mind pushed me to open up to YAG more. It pushed me to talk to a few more people, listen a little more attentively, and volunteer for a few more challenging experiences. And by the end of YAG, I felt so much more like part of the community because of this. It turned difficult and anxious memories into worthwhile ones because of the growth I'd experienced in them. That realization that something so difficult at the time could turn into one of my favorite memories showed me how important growth is to the value of our experiences and how much influence we have over our own growth. So how does this relate to school? Well, I think a great way to use this influence we have over our growth is to focus on learning for learning at school, or to focus on learning for growth. Russell Goldman and George Lowenstein at Carnegie Mellon University said in the book, The New Science of Curiosity, that curiosity is based on an my universal desire to know the world for its own sake. I think it's this curiosity and thirst for knowledge, a part of all of us, that gives us joy in learning. And while school is here to prepare us for the real world, it's also here to satisfy that innate curiosity. Classes and lessons give students the chance to explore all the most innovative and interesting ideas that people have been coming up with throughout history. And this is something that helps me motivate my learning and finding my joy in learning. For example, somebody had to discover all those formulas that we study and memorize in math class. And all those formulas are true, and they help create an intricate, abstract world for math that we get to study as students. Somebody had to analyze the way we speak and the way we use our language for grammar and language arts to exist. And through school, we have such close access to all of that knowledge. The way school and class itself works also makes a difference in this mindset of learning, because I'm the most excited about a class when I can see my teachers really excited about learning it. The classes that make sure students don't just pass, but also find value in their learning is what becomes students' favorites at schools. This idea helps with the problems of grades and choice from earlier too. It helps with grades because by focusing on what we can do to learn, we don't have as much excessive stress over mistakes and getting the right grades. Because like the common but true saying goes, mistakes become ways to aid learning. Through a focus in learning itself, good grades also come naturally as results. And this mindset also applies to the second problem earlier about choice, because by focusing on what we can do to learn, we give ourselves power back over our education. And this means that we are able to focus on our own growth and stop having that problem of having our choice taken away from us. I like to think of it a little bit like shopping in a grocery store or at a festival. If you're only looking to buy one thing, like milk, you might miss the apples or the cheese, or something that you might really enjoy if you gave it a chance. Similarly, if we focus on growth and what learning can do for us, instead of only focusing on what might be useful for the real world, we can see other things that might be valuable if we give them a chance. This is a little bit hard to apply concretely though, and this is where questions always help me. Questions are good because they help spark and organize curiosity. So forming meaningful questions for ourselves that we want to find answers to is a helpful mindset outline. You can use questions to take initiative over your own learning. What do you want to learn? What were you hoping to learn? What was interesting to you, and how can you find out more? Even if you're not sure what you're curious about, that's okay. You can give any question a try and keep it in mind, and it will create a drive or a spark for learning that hopefully creates a love for it. What's nice about this idea is that it doesn't just apply to school. In any situation, knowing that we are able to make our experiences worthwhile by focusing on growth is a hopeful and empowering reminder. Because on any typical day, we can't control the existence of these stressful, boring, or tiring times, but we can control how worthwhile we make our time. By seeing all classes and media moments as ways to expand and grow our perspectives, we can make even the dullest moments more valuable, and in the case of school especially, we can nurture a lifelong love of curiosity and learning. Thank you.